I met Kara when we were both in our late 20s, working in the same office building downtown. She was doing brand strategy for a boutique fashion label on the 6th floor, and I was in IT support for a financial firm just a floor below. We kept running into each other in the elevator, always at the worst times, when I was juggling coffee cups or she had her phone glued to her ear. But it became a thing. That subtle rhythm you fall into with someone before you even realize you're doing it. Our first real conversation happened in the break room. I was fixing the Wi-Fi router again, and she made some dry comment about how IT guys must live for the power trip of watching executives lose their minds over buffering. I laughed. She had this kind of sharp, observant humor that immediately pulled you in. We started grabbing coffee together once a week. Then lunches. Then late drinks. The shift into dating felt easy, natural in a way that caught me off guard. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony, backyard setup, string lights, her cousin's acoustic guitar. I remember standing across from her thinking, I could build a life with this woman. And I did. Now we live just outside the city in a 2-story home that we renovated together. It's got a navy blue front door and a sunroom she turned into a reading nook with plants that I can't believe are still alive. I work in software engineering, mostly remote now, and she works at a design consultancy firm. The job was a lucky break, through a friend of mine, actually, but she made her own name there quickly. Clients love her. She's confident, articulate, endlessly creative. I've always admired that about her. Our routine is steady. She's up before me most days, makes strong coffee, then disappears into her office with her laptop and a sketch pad. I usually take the morning shift for groceries or walking the dog. We reconnect for lunch, sometimes together, sometimes just passing through the kitchen. Evenings are our time. We cook dinner together more often than not, usually something she found in one of her endless Pinterest folders. She sets the table, I handle the cleanup. We don't have kids. That was something we agreed on early, and it's worked for us. We've filled our time with travel, hosting friends, weekend projects around the house. Her family lives close by, so we're at their place fairly often for Sunday dinners or birthdays. My relationship with my mother is a little quieter, but she's always been warm toward Kara. They text regularly, which still surprises me sometimes. It's not something I ever expected, but it's nice. Our life isn't flashy. It's not perfect, but it's ours. And for a long time, it's felt full. One of the things I've always appreciated about life with Kara is the rhythm we've found. Not the kind that looks impressive on social media or sounds exciting in small talk, but the quiet kind. The kind that comes from years of shared mornings, routines, and a steady sense of knowing who you're coming home to at the end of the day. Our weekdays follow a comfortable flow. I start work around 8:30 from my home office, coffee in hand, noise-canceling headphones on. I'm in software engineering, mostly back-end systems, so my days are packed with problem-solving, calls, and lines of code. Kara's office is on the other side of the house. Her work is more fluid: client calls, mock-ups, pitch decks, design boards. Sometimes I'll hear her pacing during a call, her voice animated and confident. Other times it's completely quiet, just the low hum of her Spotify playlist seeping under the door. We both work hard, but we've figured out how to meet in the middle. Around noon, one of us will knock on the other's door and suggest lunch. Nothing fancy, usually leftovers or a sandwich, but we eat together when we can. It's these small pauses that keep us close, I think. Not the grand gestures, just the steady presence in each other's day. Evenings are when we really slow down. Kara loves to cook, so I usually play sous chef. She puts on music, anything from indie pop to jazz, and I chop vegetables while she stirs sauces, always improvising. She's not a recipe follower, but somehow it works. After dinner, we clean up together. No one keeps score. I take the trash out. She wipes down the counters. We talk about our days, about whatever show we're binging, or about some new furniture arrangement she's thinking of for the living room. Weekends are a mix of productivity and laziness. Saturday mornings usually start with coffee and a walk around the neighborhood. We try to keep Sundays open for family. Her parents often host casual get-togethers, and Kara's the kind of person who thrives in those settings. She knows everyone's preferences, remembers every birthday, and somehow makes everyone feel like the most important person in the room. It's one of the things I've always admired about her. We don't argue much. When we do, it's quiet, quick disagreements about schedules or something small around the house. But we've always been good at circling back. We apologize when needed. We check in. We've built something solid, something consistent. And I think we've both taken comfort in that. Looking at our life now, It feels like we've reached a kind of calm. Not the boring kind, but the earned kind. We worked hard to build this, and we've both settled into it with a sense of trust, her and me and her. We know each other's rhythms. We know what makes the other tick. And for a while now, that's felt like enough. One of the things that makes being with Kara feel effortless is how much we've grown into our life together, not in the we finish each other's sentences kind of way, but more in how we've figured out how to stay out of each other's way when needed, and show up when it counts. She's always been more social than I am. She has standing coffee dates with friends every other week, a rotating book club that doubles as an excuse for wine and catching up, and at least one text thread going with her sisters and cousins at all times. I'm not antisocial by any stretch, but I've never needed the same level of engagement. A good weekend for me is one where the house is clean, the fridge is stocked, and I get a few quiet hours to read or tinker with side projects. We've never clashed on that. She gets her space, I get mine. And when we land back in the same place, it always feels intentional. Travel has been one of our shared loves since the beginning. We've been to Portugal, Greece, Japan, and a handful of places stateside. Our last big trip was a long weekend in New Orleans last year, live jazz, beignet, wandering without an agenda. That's how we travel. Loose plans, a few must-visit spots, and a lot of room to just explore. Kara documents everything: photos, receipts, scribbled notes in her phone. Sometimes she'll make these little photo books after trips, and I'll find them stacked under the coffee table, full of our moments frozen in pages. I still catch myself watching her when she's not paying attention, pouring coffee, sketching something at the kitchen island, standing in front of the mirror adjusting her necklace. It's not infatuation, not anymore. It's something else. Something quieter and deeper. The kind of long-term closeness that doesn't need to be exciting to feel important. She's also worked hard to maintain her independence, and I've always respected that. She didn't take my last name. She kept her own bank account even though we share expenses. Some couples might find that odd, but I never minded. It fits who she is: proud, self-made, uninterested in being defined by anyone else. I like that about her from the start. Our house feels lived in, but cared for. Every room has some little marker of our shared story: our wedding photo in the hallway, a framed print from our first trip abroad, an old armchair we still argue about replacing but never do. There's a rhythm here, a life we built not just through big moments but through thousands of tiny choices. If someone asked me last month how my marriage was, I would have said, solid. Without hesitation. We communicate well. We support each other's goals. We've weathered the usual life stuff: job changes, losses, the random stress of everyday adulthood. And through it all, I've always felt like we were on the same team. That's what makes a relationship work in the long run, right? Two people still choosing each other, day after day. For the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling something I can't quite name. It's not like Kara's been hostile or cold. She still kisses me goodbye in the morning. Still texts me midday about groceries or things we need for the house. Still laughs at the same kinds of shows, still sits next to me during dinner. But something in her presence has shifted. And it's subtle enough that, if I were less tuned in, I might have missed it. She's been busier than usual. That was the first thing I noticed. More client meetings. More last-minute projects that pop up late in the evening. She's always been committed to her work, so I didn't think much of it at first. But then came the late-night calls with headphones in. The closed-door Zoom meetings even after work hours. The text she quickly swipes away when I walk into the room. They're probably nothing. At least, that's what I told myself. Then there was the weekend trip. She told me she was driving upstate to meet a former client who was opening a boutique and wanted Kara's input on the layout. It made sense. She's done consulting work like that before. But when I asked if she wanted me to come along, she blinked for just a second too long before saying, "It's going to be pretty packed, and honestly it's just one of those quick in and out kind of things." Her tone was light, but the words felt scripted. I didn't push. But the next morning, I caught myself checking her location on Find My. Something I'd never done before, not because I felt I needed to watch her, but because we've never been that kind of couple. She had her location shared with me for years, practical stuff like coordinating meetups or checking traffic. I hadn't looked in ages, but when I did, nothing. Her location was turned off. That's when I felt it, this cold pinch in the back of my neck. Not fear, not anger, just awareness, like something in me knew to pay attention. Since then, I've noticed other things. She's been more protective of her phone. Her mood changes depending on whether she's coming or going. Some nights she's light, affectionate, chatty. Other nights, she's distant. I'm somewhere else even when we're sitting side by side. I haven't said anything. I don't have a reason to. Not really. Nothing concrete. Just instincts. Flashes. Gaps in her schedule that used to be filled with real details, now covered in vague phrases like client call or I'll explain later. I know people change. Routines shift. Maybe it's just stress or burnout or something unrelated to me entirely. But when you've been with someone as long as I've been with Kara, you can tell when something is tilted out of place. And right now, I can't shake the feeling that something's off. It's amazing how quickly a peaceful routine can turn into a series of quiet questions. For the most part, life with Kara still looks the same from the outside, same home, same schedules, same dinners. But the way I move through those days has changed. I'm paying more attention now, not because I want to be suspicious, but because I can't seem to stop noticing things I never used to think twice about. Lately, it feels like Kara's attention is somewhere else, like she's physically in the room, but emotionally tuned into another station I can't hear. We'll be talking about something as simple as what to get her dad for his birthday, and I'll see it, this flicker in her eyes, like she's elsewhere. Not distracted, not tired, just gone. Last Tuesday, I came home a little earlier than usual. I hadn't told her I was cutting out of work early. I just wanted to surprise her, maybe take a walk before dinner, talk like we used to. When I walked in, the house was quiet, but I heard the low murmur of her voice upstairs. I assumed she was on a call and didn't want to interrupt. But I froze at the bottom of the stairs when I heard her laugh. It was a different kind of laugh. Softer. Not the polite, clipped one she uses with clients. Not the familiar, relaxed one she shares with me. It sounded young, playful, like the version of her I hadn't seen in a long time. I backed away without thinking, suddenly unsure of whether I should have been there at all. When she came down 20 minutes later, she acted like she hadn't known I was home. Said she thought I had a late meeting. I didn't ask who she'd been talking to. I don't know why. Maybe because I was afraid she'd lie. Or maybe because I was afraid she wouldn't. That night, I found her phone charging in the kitchen while she was upstairs. I didn't touch it. Didn't open anything. I just stood there staring at the screen like it might volunteer its secrets. It buzzed once, no name, just a preview that vanished before I could read it. I stepped back like I'd crossed a line just by looking. These moments don't add up to anything conclusive. And yet, they don't let me rest. I've started waking up before my alarm, lying in bed beside her, watching her sleep and wondering what changed. We still touch, still kiss goodnight, still sit close on the couch. But it feels like she's performing now, like her gestures are coming from muscle memory instead of genuine feeling. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I keep telling myself that people go through private phases, that not everything needs to be shared or explained. But I also know what it feels like when someone starts pulling away and trying to make sure you don't notice. I haven't said a word about any of this, not because I'm in denial, but because I'm not sure what kind of conversation I'd be starting. And once it's said aloud, you can't take it back. So for now, I'm quiet, but I'm watching and waiting. There's something strange about living next to someone every day and realizing you're beginning to feel alone. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow process, like watching fog creep across your windshield while you're still trying to drive forward. You tell yourself it'll lift, that it's just a phase, that the road is still there underneath it all. But the truth is, I haven't felt connected to Kara in weeks. She's not cold, exactly. Not angry. Not distant in any way you could call out without sounding paranoid. If anything, she's too normal. She laughs at the right moments. She asks me about work. She even kissed me goodbye the other morning, and for a split second I thought, see? You're imagining things. But the moment passed, and the feeling didn't stay. Because now, everything she does feels like it could be something else. Something performed. Something practiced. She's been out more often in the evenings. Late client calls, she says, or catching up with Maya, one of her old coworkers. The first few times, I didn't think much of it. I even encouraged her, told her it was good to get out, recharge a little. But now, it's becoming a pattern. The kind that doesn't seem like she's recharging. It seems like she's just not here. And when she is home, her phone never leaves her side. She used to leave it charging on the kitchen counter for hours, barely glancing at it. Now it's either in her hand or upside down. When it vibrates, she picks it up before I even register the sound. She doesn't linger on the screen. Just glances, locks it again, and continues whatever she was doing, as if trained not to flinch. I tried to initiate a deeper conversation a few nights ago. Nothing dramatic. Just sat beside her on the couch and said, "You've seemed a little distracted lately." Everything okay? She smiled, wide, reassuring, and said, just busy. Work's been a lot. But I'm fine, really. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for a moment, I almost believed her. But when I looked down, her eyes were open. Still thinking. Still somewhere else. I don't want to become someone who doubts every word out of his wife's mouth. I hate that I've started to catalog these moments, every vague answer, every shift in routine, every unreturned touch. But I also can't pretend nothing's changed. Because something has. The hardest part is not knowing what I'm supposed to do with this feeling. It's not like I can walk up to her and say, hey, I think you're emotionally checked out and possibly hiding something. Care to confirm? I don't have anything except the growing sense that I've become background noise in a life she's now living somewhere else. And until she gives me a reason to ask for the truth, I'm stuck right here, watching the fog thicken. There's a kind of silence that creeps in when two people are pretending nothing is wrong. It's not uncomfortable, exactly. It's just empty. Kara and I still talk about dinner plans, work, her cousin's upcoming wedding, but the conversations feel like placeholders. Like we're just filling time until we can each go back to our separate corners of the house. She's still out late once or twice a week. Client drinks, she'll say. Or, I'm helping Maya with some freelance stuff. It's always vague, always tossed out casually while she's grabbing her coat or adjusting her lipstick in the hallway mirror. I've stopped asking for details. Not because I'm uninterested, but because I already know what the answers will sound like. Last night, I waited up. I didn't plan to. I was just sitting on the couch flipping through a half-watched show while the hours stretched out. She'd said she'd be home by 10. At 10:40, I heard the garage door open. When she came in, her tone was light, like nothing was out of the ordinary. Sorry, lost track of time, she said, shrugging off her jacket. She smelled like perfume and something else. A trace of wine, maybe. I nodded and said nothing. She didn't ask why I was still awake. I wish I could say I'm angry. I wish I felt the kind of heat that would push me into action, into demanding the truth or pulling her phone into my hands and finally giving myself permission to look. But what I feel isn't fire. It's weight. It's the slow, heavy dread of knowing that someone you love may already be gone and just hasn't told you yet. There are moments I try to convince myself I'm imagining it, that I'm projecting stress or boredom or fear onto someone who's just living her life. But then something happens, like the time I saw a message flash briefly across her screen when she left it on the table for half a second too long. I didn't catch the name. Just the words, I miss your hands. My chest tightened instantly, but I didn't ask. I couldn't. I just stood there until she came back from the bathroom, picked up the phone, and smiled at me like nothing was out of place. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I get through the day. I work. I try to stay present. I make dinner if she's running late, do laundry on Sundays, pick up groceries. On paper, nothing's wrong. In my gut, everything is. But I haven't said anything. Not one word. Because if I say it, it becomes real. And maybe I'm not ready for that. It happened at her cousin's engagement party. One of those semi-formal backyard affairs with rented tents, catered appetizers, and too many folding chairs. Kara insisted we go, said it would be good to show up for family, and I didn't fight it. Honestly, I was tired of being in my head all the time, tired of scanning for signs, tired of pretending I wasn't pretending. So I went along with it. We dressed up, we smiled, we made our rounds through the crowd like everything was fine. The weather was nice, overcast but warm, and people were scattered across the yard in little groups. I ended up chatting with one of Kara's uncles about the home remodeling work he was doing. I only stepped away to find the bathroom, but it wasn't obvious where it was. I walked back around the side of the house, thinking it might be through the side door, and that's when I heard it. Voices. 2 of them. Low at first, then clearer. One was my mother's. The other, Kara. They were standing near the back corner of the patio, just around the hedge, half hidden from the crowd. I paused. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just froze when I heard my name. Honestly, Kara was saying, I never thought I'd still be with him. He was the backup plan. Reliable, safe. But you know how it is. You blink and 10 years have passed. My throat went dry. I couldn't see her face, couldn't move, could barely breathe. She sounded relaxed, unapologetic, like she wasn't even aware of how cruel the words were, like she'd said them before. My mother responded, and her voice shook me even more than Kara's. You've done well for yourself. You're glowing. He's lucky to have had you this long. Don't feel guilty for wanting more. Kara laughed, light, almost teasing. Well, more is exactly what I have now. And a lot more exciting, let me tell you that. They both laughed. My mother. My wife. I backed away without thinking. My ears were ringing. My hands were shaking. I don't even remember walking back through the yard. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I didn't tell Kara I was leaving. I just got in the car and drove. Windows down, heart pounding, trying to stay focused enough to make it home in one piece. It didn't feel like anger at first. It felt like falling. Like the floor had given out beneath a decade of shared memories. I kept replaying the words in my head. Plan B. Backup. Lucky to have her. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the ease with which she spoke about it. Like none of it cost her anything. Like I wasn't even a real person in her story. Just a placeholder. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I already knew what I was going to do. I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't write some long emotional letter. I walked inside, grabbed my tools, and changed the locks on the front and back doors. Every turn of the screwdriver felt like breathing again. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and contacted Jonah, my friend who owns the firm Kara works at. I didn't say much. Just told him I was going through something personal, that Kara had broken our marriage in a way that made working together impossible. I asked him, plain and direct, to let her go. Jonah's loyal. He didn't ask for details. He said he'd handle it. Then I logged into our joint savings account and moved every dollar into a new account under my name. Left just enough in the old one for her to notice something was wrong before it was gone. I sat there, watching the transfer complete, feeling nothing but stillness. The sun was setting when I finished. She still hadn't texted. Still hadn't called. She had no idea what I'd heard. No idea what she just lost. And as far as I'm concerned, she never will. She came home around 10:30 that night, still wearing her party smile, her heels tapping lightly up the front steps like nothing in the world had shifted. I was sitting in the living room with the lights off, just waiting to hear the sound of the key fail in the lock. It happened exactly as I imagined. One twist, then another, then the pause, then the rustle of her bag, then the knocking. I didn't move. I just sat there, watching the door, letting the silence stretch. She knocked again, harder this time. Babe, she called. Did you lock this from the inside? Her voice was still casual, still full of that unconscious arrogance she'd used when talking to my mother about how lucky I was to have her. I stood slowly, walked to the door, and opened it just wide enough to meet her eyes. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. And in that split second, she knew. She didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't smile or lean in for a kiss. Her face went pale, and I saw it, something break behind her expression. But still, she tried to recover. Why's the door locked? She asked, too evenly. I heard you, I said. At the party. With my mother. Her mouth opened, then closed. No words came out. I handed her the envelope with her new debit card, linked to the remaining balance I left just to be legally clean about it, and then I shut the door. Slowly. Finally. I locked it behind her, then turned off the porch light. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I just walked the house for hours, room to room, feeling it settle back into being mine. I went into her closet and bagged up every last thing she owned. I stacked the bags near the front door and texted her in the morning. Your things are packed. Come get them today or I'm donating all of it. She showed up around noon with her sister. Didn't say a word. Didn't look at me. Just carried her things out one trip at a time. Her sister shot me a look like she wanted to say something, but I wasn't interested. I stood at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, watching them like strangers. By the time they drove off, the silence in the house felt different. Not empty. Not lonely. Just honest. I haven't spoken to my mother since that night. She's called. Texted. Left voicemails asking me to talk. One even said, you misunderstood. It wasn't how it sounded. But I did understand. Perfectly. The betrayal wasn't just that Kara cheated. It was that my mother stood beside her, propping her up while she dismantled the life I thought we'd all been building together. There's no coming back from that. Not now. I deleted every photo of Kara from my phone, cleared out the shared folders, removed her from everything, bank accounts, insurance, the emergency contact form at my job. It was brutal, but necessary, like cauterizing a wound before it spreads. And still, she never once apologized. Not really. Not with words that meant anything. Just a few cold, half-hearted messages that said things like, I didn't mean for it to go this way, and we weren't happy anymore. You just didn't want to see it. But the truth is, I did see it. I just didn't want to believe it. Now I do. And I won't forget. The house has been quiet these past few weeks, but not in the way it used to be. It's no longer the silence of tension or avoidance. It's the kind that lets you breathe. The kind that lets you wake up in the morning without checking someone else's mood first. I open the windows more. I light candles in the evening. I rearranged the furniture in the living room just because I could. For the first time in years, the space feels like it belongs to me again. I cleared out everything that reminded me of her. The framed photos, the mugs we picked up while traveling, the sweaters she always left draped over the back of chairs. It wasn't out of spite. I just didn't want to walk past those things every day and feel the echo of someone who treated me like a backup plan, like a placeholder. I needed space, not just in the house, but in my head. Work's been steady. I told Jonah he made the right call letting her go. He didn't ask for details, and I didn't offer any. It's been easier than I expected to focus on the job again. My mind doesn't wander the way it used to. No more wondering where she is, who she's with, or what lie she's prepping next. That noise is gone now. I didn't realize how loud it had become until it wasn't there anymore. Then there's Zoe. I met her about 3 weeks after Kara left. It wasn't planned. I wasn't looking. She works at the bookstore I'd started going to on weekends, a quiet place with creaky floors and strong coffee in the back. I noticed her because she didn't try to sell me anything. She just asked what I was reading and said I had good taste. We talked for a while, and something about her energy made me stay longer than I meant to. Our conversations have been easy. No pressure. No expectations. She doesn't know the whole story yet, and I'm in no rush to tell it. Right now, it's just light texts, shared walks, an occasional drink after work. But there's something in the way she listens, really listens, that makes me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I don't know what this will become. I'm not planning that far ahead. But I do know that it feels good to talk to someone who doesn't already have a version of me written in their head. Someone who isn't keeping score or hiding things in plain sight. Someone who's just present. Most of all, I'm learning to trust myself again. To stop second-guessing what I see, what I feel. To believe that I wasn't wrong for loving deeply, or for expecting loyalty, or for being blindsided by someone who smiled at me while lying through her teeth. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. The storm came, tore everything down, and now I'm just walking the pieces back into place. Slowly. Carefully. And I like where I'm heading. It's strange how a life can fall apart so quietly. One moment, you're doing the dishes after dinner, listening to someone laugh in the next room, and the next, you're relearning how to breathe without them in the house. What surprises me most isn't how it ended. It's how quickly it all started to make sense once I stopped clinging to what I thought we were. I've spent the last few weeks doing things slowly. Mindfully. I walk more. I journal in the mornings, nothing profound, just scribbled thoughts, small observations. I've even started cooking real meals again, just for myself. Not because I have to, but because I want to. It feels good to choose things that are just for me, with no ulterior motive and no one to perform for. Kara hasn't tried to come back. Not in any meaningful way. A few texts, sure. A vague apology. One email that said she misses the version of us that worked. But I didn't respond. There's nothing left to salvage. I don't hate her. I don't feel much toward her at all now. The hurt settled, then cooled, then dried out into something I no longer need to carry. As for my mother, we haven't spoken since the party. She sent a message last week. It was long, full of half apologies and, you have to understand, But I don't. I don't have to understand why she chose to support someone who tore me apart from the inside. And maybe one day I'll be ready to forgive her, or at least talk. But not now. Right now, I'm not rebuilding old bridges. I'm building new ground. And on that new ground, there's something real starting to take shape. Zoe and I are still seeing each other. We're not rushing anything. She knows some of the story now, and she's met the heavy parts with calm and patience, never trying to fix me, never asking me to move faster than I can. We talk. We laugh. She listens when I go quiet and never pushes when I say I'm not ready. Being around her feels like air after holding my breath too long. But this story isn't about her, or about Kara, or even about betrayal. It's about learning to trust my own instincts again. Learning that silence isn't peace, and comfort isn't the same as connection. It's about understanding that sometimes the people closest to you will choose themselves first, and you have to be brave enough to walk away, even when it hurts. I'm not the same man I was a year ago, and thank God for that. Because now, I wake up and know I'm not plan B. I'm the only plan, and that's more than enough.